The streets are buzzing. New York Knicks, Leon Rose, at it again. Adding Jeremy Sochan off the buyout market. Ladies and gentlemen, the New York Knicks just got deeper. We've got lots to chop up. Man, marathon stream, off day. Man, no minutes restriction tonight, as we'll take you through what Jeremy Sochan, the 6'8" wing, cut by the Spurs, will add to the squad, man. What do you think about the pickup? We're going to have a conversation about minutes, lineups. Give me your favorite lineups that you could see with this Knicks deep squad, man. On a night where Mohamed Diawara balled out in Philadelphia, the Knicks got deeper in terms of young athleticism, feistiness, agitation, tenaciousness, and we'll talk about it, ladies and gentlemen, today. Right, it's what, 3:45 on the East Coast, man. But we know little Poland out in Brooklyn is going to be buzzing because Jeremy Sochan, of Polish and UK descent, English descent, he is going to thrive, I think, in the Mecca, right? And he had 10 teams to choose from, ladies and gentlemen. So all in all, man, just to break it down as we roll some offensive highlights, we're going to dial up some defensive highlights of Jeremy Sochan, where he makes his mark in the league, right? A lottery pick, former lottery pick, and he was high on Leon Rose's list. 3 key targets. Leon Rose ends up nailing 2 with Alvarado and Sochan and wanted Eves Missy. But New York Knicks got their man, Jeremy Sochan, off of waivers, man. Phoenix wanted him. Philly wanted him. Denver wanted him. The Lakers wanted him. He had 10 teams to choose from. But New York stand up because we've got a big Polish descent, obviously a community in New York City, but an international flavor. And Jeremy Sochan is going to fit right in. Josh Hart and him already having some back and forth interactions online as well, welcoming in their newest Nick. It is a rest of the season deal. There's no deal, no year for next year yet, but things are going to play out. Obviously, OG Anunoby's injured. We'll talk about that. How soon is OG going to return and where Jeremy Sochan fits. But all of these things, man, all in all, let's just dial it all the way back, right? We had Malcolm Brogdon retire, fam, on the eve of the season. That opened up the 15th spot. But not many people talked about that because the season started and we're at it, fam, straight out of the gate. But that was a key milestone with Malcolm Brogdon retiring, fam. That opened up that spot, right? But the Knicks didn't have the money to fill any more of that, any more spot, because they were going to have to cut Shamet or Brogdon. But Brogdon retired, and that left that spot wide open, fam. And so what happened? We signed Yabusele, we signed Clarkson. What Leon Rose has done now is turn Yabusele's contract into Jose Alvarado, Jeremy Sochan, and he's kept the other summer acquisition in Jordan Clarkson, right? And he's turned Yabusele's money, man, into 2 key depth pieces alongside Malcolm Brogdon's retirement, fam. That is exceptional bang for buck, right? We're going to talk about his game, how he fits. He's versatile. He can put the ball on the floor. Can't shoot this in his second season. Showed flashes of hitting some shots in his first season. But the fact that he can guard 1 through 4, the fact that he can put the ball on the floor as well, like you see, that adds a lot of versatility. And I think he's going to fit with several different lineups, man, with shooting, with length, and the other wings as well, man. I'm excited, fam. I think this is an A-type pickup. The Alvarado one's definitely trending towards the A now, based on what we've seen after 3 games, man. Shattering his, or NBA record, fam. The only player in NBA history, Jose Alvarado, last night, fam, to have 25 plus points off the bench with 5 steals and 8 3-pointers made. But Jeremy Sochan has chosen the Knicks, man. And it just goes to show, I think he understands, in the communication between him and the front office, what he could achieve here, fam, and breaking that championship drought in the Mecca, man. There ain't nowhere like being here. And we've got good vibes going on, fam. especially with the current players, understanding how these guys are going to fit. Dr. Scotty Scott, Roll Call, Chez V, Johnny Chiba, Bodega Wi-Fi, Let's Get It, Ernest Cameron, Chancellor, I See You Coach, everyone in the building, Tendrell, David. Hey, a lot of people hyped with this pickup, right? We're rolling these offensive clips, fam. We're going to continue to roll more clips of Sochan on offense, and then we're going to dial up the defense. We're going to have our co-host EJ join us later tonight on this marathon stream. John from Still Knicks Fans, great to see you. Extremely excited for this pickup. I'm still reeling from last night's game, like Johnny Chiba said, with Jose's 8 threes. Bodega says Sochan has high basketball IQ. Yeah, you don't become a lottery pick, without that talent. Tendrell likes that baby Rodman look. Yeah, look, the versatility. I think let's start with the drawbacks. People are saying there's no minutes going to be available. Potentially, where does he fit? Diawara's playing great. Well, Diawara's providing the shot making now, and so Sochan would theoretically fit alongside a Diawara as well in those lineups. And look, just a guy that could guard the Siakam types. We saw Hart and Landry Shamet, man, God bless them, but they can't guard up the Siakam types that are 6'9". So that's another tool in our shed, fam. You want to go to all the way to the big dance. Take nothing for granted. Stay humble. Leon Rose has understood that, hey, there's a guy out there that we could address a need. We might not need him as much. That'll be great. If we do need him, we got him. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? It's just like another tool in the shed. But obviously, we had the 15th spot to fill. They probably looked at some bigs, but we're still going to wait for other names to get bought out. There's still flexibility, fam. They might choose to cut Clarkson later if another name comes out. So let's not jump the gun in terms of what the playoff rotations and the minutes are going to be. But I'm excited because I do think that certain matchups, Sochan is required. He could guard up on the perimeter, and he's so versatile as well. Those players you need. Another Swiss Army knife, another Jay Hart type. Coach says this is bigger than it looks. This kid fills a lot of holes and fills with the most of the roster, fits with most of the roster. 100%. He's just a baller, in my opinion. Look, the Spurs rotation and roster was crowded, full of young talent. This guy's going to come in and legitimately be a top 10, top 11 guy, and we take it from there. We work on practice. And first thing I want to say is, what a perfect time to change teams, right? We just started our All-Star break. We got the streets buzzing, but everyone got 7 days off, and now this guy can, he can, travel cross country. He can find a place, couple days, get to know the city, work out the practice facility, come over with his partner or fam or whatever it may be, get connected with what's happening, and not miss any games. So what a perfect time to get, to come to a new team with less urgency right now with the break. So I think thing's going to be super smooth. We got Jose in the practice facility. He's not going on vacation as well, so that's going to work out, really, really well. And Sochan put out a video of Empire State, right? A guy singing Empire State. So he confirmed it as well after the Shams report. He said his goodbyes to San Antonio. Josh Hart has also talked about it here, commenting on Sochan's video. Like I said, Sochan's going to bring personality, man. And that's what some of the need has been addressed, right? He's an agitator. He's a guy that'll, communicate on the court. He's vocal, and he's active, right? He's a live body at 6'8". And welcome in Jeremy Sochan. Let's roll these defensive clips, right? Chancellor says good pickup. If healthy, another point of attack defender. He can D up 1 through 4. Yep, I'm looking at that Detroit matchup, obviously, but before that, it could be James Harden. Cleveland's on a roll now, fam. Cleveland's only a game back, which is crazy. I'm not sweating Cleveland, but what a block. You see Sochan, guard For example, he guarded Jay Randall, man. He guarded Jules in that one. He guarded James Harden, right? What timing? As I just mentioned, Cleveland, man. He's blocking everyone right now. These are some great highlights, and yeah, he's going to bring agitation and personality. And off the top of my head, as I'm asking you guys, what lineups would you like to see now with this squad, with starters mixed with the other guys? I think we have got officially now, for the first time in a minute, an agitator lineup, right? An agitator lineup could be Jose Alvarado, Landry Shamet, fam, Josh Hart, Jeremy Sohan, and Mitchell Robinson, right? Hart and Mitchell Robinson have gotten into it at times. They're vocal. Landry Shamet likes to get into it and mix it up as well. And then you sprinkle in Jose and Jeremy, right? That's a 5-man agitator lineup as well. So we'll continue to talk about that. But story basically of the show, story of the moment is Leon Rose has flipped Yabu for 2 of his top 3 targets, right? With just 2 second-round picks. We got to keep Clarkson. Hey, we even got to keep Dardier for those Dardier hives out there. What a strike rate. And this has definitely been up there with one of my, most pleasing trade deadlines in terms of just hitting on those targets, fam. Understanding what this team really needed. No excuses now. I don't think we have any real weaknesses right now. Like I said, maybe at the big man, but look, Huck as the third string. If everyone's healthy, he's not really going to see minutes. So, you could talk about every team. If this guy got injured, if this guy got injured, basically, if your top, 2 rotation, depth pieces are healthy, the third string guy is not going to be needed. But look, Sohan can guard up as well. So you do have OG Anunoby, you've got Sohan, and you could have some small ball lineups with versatility because Sohan can put the ball on the deck as well. Shez V says back-to-back shows, no fatigue, no excuses from CT. Right, we're rolling in this one, man. We're rolling all the way to the NBA Finals, baby. We're hot. Great to have you with us, fam. Hit that like button. Give us your thoughts. We shout it out as well. We'd love to hear everyone's opinion, man. There's some people that might not be as high, and I want to hear your perspective, fam. That's where it comes from. The respect. Fans respect other Knicks fans, and I want to hear your thoughts on this one, right? I don't think with this final spot you could address everything because, there's people talking about a big. There's people talking about adding some extra size. Dalen Terry was thrown out to get in Jose Alvarado. But then Leon Rose had the next move lined up. As I told y'all, fam, for weeks, player agents have discussions with teams, right? That ain't tampering, right? Agents, that potentially negotiating a buyout, they could talk to other teams and talk about, if my client got cut, they would like to come to y'all. Those kind of things. And look, Leon Rose, Wesley, Brock Aller, Rosas, and co. These guys know what's up. These guys know what they're doing. Uh, and basically, I think this move was in the works because the Knicks were in trade negotiations with the San Antonio Spurs. For whatever reason, the Spurs weren't happy taking on Yabusele. Maybe he wasn't prepared to waive his, player option to stay on the Spurs. Maybe he really wanted to go to Chicago. So maybe that's why we couldn't get a trade done with San Antonio. But to get 2 guys on one guy on a buyout and one guy for 2 second-round picks, that just broke the NBA record off the bench. 8 threes, 25 points plus with 5 steals in his 3rd game. I mean, you cannot make this up, man. It's definitely been one of my most pleasing trade deadlines, just because I'm so high on the Alvarado pickup, too. John, still Knicks fans, doing great work with Ron and the fam. Appreciate you coming through the building, keeping us buzzing. Leon Rose is cooking, says John. So he's real high on this one. We'll continue to roll these Jose highlights because what a game it was from Jose. 5 steals, right? Him and OG Anunoby are going to run amok. And now we've got Jeremy Sohan as well. Johnny Cheever's in the house. Shirley Willis, great to see you. Uh, all I want is to win. So if any player could come in and do their part, well, I am here for it. Yeah, yeah, we're building an unbelievable culture, Shirley. We have built a culture, and I think we've just strengthened it with two great character guys, but guys that have some rough edges. That's what we've been looking for, and that's okay. Yeah, you can be a solid, upstanding person, but have some rough edges. And Jose Alvarado, Jeremy Sohan, they're not corporate clean. They've got some rough edges. We needed that to go with some of the other clean guys. With McCall, Hart, Brunson. Those guys are corporate clean, but now we've got some more blue collar as well. We've got some more grittiness, versatility too. Here's Sohan guarding Luca, right? Luca guarding up on the T-Wolves too. Glenn Jones says CT respect. We were just talking about it last night. Yeah, Leon Rose plans in advance, fam, and definitely this has been in the works for a minute. And I cannot stress how big of a pickup it is. Because look, Sohan could help another team out. He had 10 teams to pick from, and he chose the New York Knicks. So that's where we're at as a state of a franchise, right? We ain't getting the scraps no more. I told y'all for the start of the season, when buyout market comes, we are going to be the prettiest girl in the room. Because one thing, it's like, okay, New York City's always been there. It's always been the lure, but the Knicks didn't quite have the squad or the success rate. But you add in the success rate, you add in the current squad, second seed, 15 games over 500, and you add the opportunity to win a championship playing in New York with some great guys too. So, we're in a situation where, look, Deuce can rest up, OG Anunoby can rest up, and, y'all can take your time coming back. And we got you, fam. We definitely got you. But look, this is a kind of Leon Rose pickup in terms of he loves a guy with a couple of years' experience in the league. And what a great organization to come up in the league with the San Antonio Spurs. Like I said, it just didn't quite work out with I think of more of a roster fit. I think they were high on Sohan's future and his, versatility, but they needed some extra shooting. Uh, and Sohan doesn't really provide that, whereas the New York Knicks got that. The New York Knicks do have the shooting and the options to put shooters around Jeremy Sohan too, fam. And he rebounds too. Baby Rodman, like Tendrell says. Bodega says we offered Yabu and Pacome. Okay. Yeah, whatever it may be, the Spurs weren't willing to buy it. But, Sohan's agents were continuously pushing for an opportunity until San Antonio cracked. Basically, they gave him permission 2 weeks ago. They gave Sohan camp permission to talk to teams, and that's where Leon Rose, William Wesley, and probably Jalen Brunson doing the advocating, man, on the phone lines, saying, man, y'all come on over. We got the soldiers to take down Detroit, and exactly what we need. You could be the final piece. So I do think the two ways they're going to stay on the two-way. McCullough, Jemison, and Dylan Jones will most likely still be on the two-way and won't be playoff eligible. And the Knicks roster now is at 15 main roster guys too. Building blocks is a lot of these defensive clips show guys just missing shots. It's also, making them, forced into tougher shots as well. So, yeah, look, Jeremy Sohan, he's not the best defender in the league. But, we've got to think about we're picking up a guy on the buyout market as well. So I think it addresses a need. And I do think it's a situation where, he can add to the squad in a high level. Switchability to physicality. Look at that. He just moved Alfred Şengün on offense too. And also, yeah, with these offensive highlights, everyone's just thinking of Sohan as a guy that only defends, right? But he can dribble, and hopefully he can find his shot under Peter Patton. Guess what? A guy who's been able to help Josh Hart, who was rendered a non-shooter. He's shooting 40% on the season plus. Mohamed Diawara, people saying he couldn't shoot. Now he's shooting the lights out. So let's pump the brakes with Jeremy Sochan. He's a liability on offense. Let's see what happens. I'm sure he's putting in work, and like I said, he's going to be in the practice facility throughout this All-Star break. But look, the rich got richer, in my opinion, because even if we don't need him, that could be a good thing as well. In terms of just having him there ready to go, right, with this lineup and the squad that we currently have, right? We know Pacome Dardier is not playoff ready. We know Clarkson's iffy if we need. It's just another body you could throw out there. Injuries happen, guys. The playoffs are going to be physical. Foul trouble. Karl Anthony Towns leads the league in offensive fouls, man. If they call the playoff games ticky-tack, y'all can bet your life that cat's going to be in foul trouble in some of these games. It's just inevitable. He leads the league in offensive fouls, and the referees hate the Knicks, and they hate Cat. OG Anunoby, let's not act like he's finished every season healthy. So let's not be gullible and bury our heads in the sand. There is going to be some opportunities for guys to have to step up. Mohamed Diawara is still a rookie. As much as I love what I'm seeing from Diawara, and he absolutely should continue to play, but he is unproven in terms of higher competition. So yeah, bringing in some extra experience, I think, was a really good pickup and a good move. Building blocks says, I hope he does work out for us. Definitely. I wonder also what Sochan expects from New York that he couldn't get from the 10 other teams that wanted him. Yeah, I'm sure he's 22, he's young, he's probably excited about playing in New York, but probably also looks at the team and thinks, look, that could be still an opportunity for me to show my toughness, my ruggedness, and get some minutes, some opportunities. Maybe Mike Brown is thinking of being a mad scientist and playing some more small ball lineups too with OG. One thing is we got to get versatile, because what do some teams do to us that throws a spanner in the work? They throw a wing on Cat. So if we got Sochan and OG, that could potentially be a small ball 5. We could throw a wrench, in amongst the other team, and play 5 guys small ball lineups that can all dribble. And I maintain this. The losses to Indiana, it's because they've all got ball handlers. After every make, they were pushing the break against the New York Knicks. That was killing us in transition, right? We need to get the ball up quicker, and having a power forward or a guy that could guard up, that could also dribble the basketball and push the break. It's kind of like having a mini Julius Randle, right? How do y'all feel about that take? Could this be like a miniature version of Julius Randle in terms of a guy who rebounds and he's going to push the break? He doesn't need to look to Brunson or Jose Alvarado. That's just going to slow it down. If Jeremy Sochan grabs the rebound, he can push the break. He can be out and going as well. So that could be something that gets our offense going, I think, from a small ball perspective, Ham, too. So yeah, I love that. Yeah, let's pick up these defensive highlights again. Here we go, courtesy of Tej. Great to have him, chop up these highlights on X. IQ for 3 does great work. Yeah, is Sochan gonna do the orange and blue hair? I wouldn't put that past him. He's definitely, whatever it is, man. Blessings to him, because he could have chose the Knicks for a number of reasons. Right, we've got a lot of things going for us right now. But yeah, whatever the reason is, he's definitely hyped to pick the Knicks over the rest of the pack too. Ricardo offers his thoughts on Clarkson. So it's starting to feel like they are going to let Clarkson go. Would not rule that out, fam. At this stage, there's no signs of that happening, but there is a chance. I think with the big man spot still a question. Let's see. Clarkson's still getting minutes with Deuce out, but there is a couple of question marks. You got Deucey, you got OG with the toenail. We know OG likes to take his time, but right, for once and for all, right, let's sound the horn, fam. Because the New York Knicks officially now have a backup wing stop, fam. We have official backup wing stop to wing stop now with Muhammad Diawara and Jeremy Sochan now officially 2 wings with size that can more than back up Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby, right? So Leon Rose has done his job, in my opinion, fam. It's up to Mike Brown now. Absolutely no excuses. We have the roster to take down anyone in the East, right? Underlows, great to see you. Big news, right? Their CT. So yeah, a lot of people high on this pickup too. And I do think it's a case of uh, chemistry. I think chemistry is going to be a big key. Buzzer beaters in the house. Great to have you with us. Can you give us a depth roster? Yep, let's pull it up. Y'all can screenshot this if you like. I hope you're feeling it. Yeah, our 3 depth lineups. Obviously, you've got a couple of two-way players that won't be playoff eligible. But I've put, Jeremy Sochan in that 6-man reserve unit, right? So we can go 11 deep, 12 deep if you want to play Clarkson or Kolek. I'm sure they'll continue to play throughout the regular season as a tune-up, but when the playoffs hit, we can legitimately go 11 or 12 deep, right? That's a progress over last season, man. I don't care how you flip it, where you're coming from. Last season in the playoffs under Thibodeau, we weren't confidently able to go 11 or 12 deep. You know what I'm saying? So that is progress, and that is where we're at right now. And high impact players too. I mean, look at Jose Alvarado, man. Last night on the road, 26 points, 8 threes, 5 steals. The first player in NBA history to do that, man. Right, we were buzzing about Emmanuel Quickly as the 6th man, Deuce McBride. Now we've got another guy alongside Deuce that can have that level of an impact on both sides. That bench lineup is killer. It is. It's a killer lineup with Muhammad D, Sochan, and Mitch, and some instigators on the perimeter with Deuce, Alvarado, and Landry Shamet, man. Bulldogs. They like to fight over screens. They like to make you feel them. They'll get up in the pockets and put on some ball pressure too. So that's what we bring to the squad. And also, another reason why Sochan may have chose the Knicks, man, we sent them packing in the NBA Cup. So he got a first-hand look at how special the fans are, how special our team chemistry and squad is. And he might have just said, ladies and gentlemen, if you can't beat them, join them, right? If you can't beat them, join them. Why would you want to join some pretender where, okay, you don't know if you're going to get minutes, you don't even know if they can win the chip. You're going to go to a surefire thing. And in the mind of Jeremy Sochan, we're the closest thing to surefire, right? Especially if you know you're bringing your talents to the squad. So you believe in yourself. You believe you're going to make that team better as well, right? We're talking about a team that's already 15 games over 500. And I'm going to say I'm bringing my talent to the squad and I'm making this squad even deeper as well. So the Knicks are a surefire thing right now. And I'm definitely less worried about Detroit now, right? We got the tools to match up against Detroit now. Beef Stew, Jalen Duren, we've got some muscle, we've got some physicality, and we've got some guys that won't take a back step. You know what I'm saying right now, fam? You saw Jose Alvarado. He punched Mark Williams, so he's not scared of nobody. Last night, he got into the grill of Trendon Watford. Trendon Watford, obviously, he ain't scaring no one, but still, there was a size difference, and Jose stepped up and defended Mitchie, right? Y'all realize what that does for the team chemistry? Mitch has been feeling slightly neglected for a minute. Now he's got teammates having his back. So Mitchell Robinson, he's hype, he's locked in. He's on social media already talking about clowning Philly fans missing out on their free chicken. So Mitchell Robinson, he's locked in. He's excited about his upcoming free agency because he's healthy and the plan is working out. Mitch is looking like he's going to get paid a bag and he's excited for the playoffs. Joel Embiid ducked him last night and Jose Alvarado stepped to his defense. too. So we've got to stay healthy, but we've officially got a backup wing stop right now. And as I said before, guys, it's the perfect time to change to a new team. You got 7 days off, fam. So he can learn the plays, he can meet his teammates, he can chill in the city, find a place, settle in, and we can get going against Detroit at MSG, fam, next Thursday. Johnny Chiba says Jose Alvarado deserves all of Clarkson's minutes. Let him go. I think the experience of Clarkson, he seems to be good in the locker room. If he's cool, chilling, and being situational, I'm not in any rush to kind of cut Clarkson. But yeah, if a real big name, big man gets bought out, then I'm definitely having those conversations. Like Robert Williams, Kevon Looney. I mean, if we were to pick up Marvin Bagley, even then we got no weaknesses, fam. We go 3 deep. Right. This is the deepest team in my lifetime. And you guys let me know again with your lineups. Is this the deepest squad in your opinion? I've been a Knicks fan since 93, 92, 93. This is definitely the deepest team. Right. We've got situationals that are former 6-man of the year. Right. Say whatever you want about Clarkson. His body of work and pedigree in the league as former 6-man, he's situational now. Right. We've never been in that situation where we've had a former 6-man not even get minutes. And as I said, like Glenn, my man, says, no excuses now. There is none. There is zero excuses. Leon Rose given Mike Brown all the tools, and spare a thought for Tibbs, because this Tibbs would walk through coal and fire and barbed wire to coach this team with Diawara, Sochan now, Jose Alvarado. I mean, Tibbs would have loved to coach this team again with this strengthened bench, right? So, look, shout out to Tibbs for the work he did over the years, but this team's definitely deeper than what Tibbs had. But yeah, Mike Brown's on the hot seat now because he's got to make it happen. Okay, JJ47K says Alvarado, Shamit, Sochan, Mitch, Diawara, hopefully Deuce when he comes back is that bench we're looking at. You said it, fam. And look, yeah, Deuce probably going to be back right up until the end of the reg season, right before the playoffs, and he might be a little rusty coming back. So that's why, we're always going to fill that 15th spot. It's just a matter of, okay, what position, how do they fit? And we didn't need another undersized guard. We didn't need another guard, another small piece. We needed somebody with size and some extra versatility too, fam. Because, look, even defensive possessions down the stretch, right? Even if Sochan isn't a mainstay, right, we know to close games out, you need that size, physicality that sometimes Mikal Bridges doesn't provide. That's just a fact. How did we lose to the team that only won 13 games, the Indiana Pacers? Well, they killed us with size. We had no one to match up on Pascal Siakam. We had no one to keep in front of Nemhard and Neesmith. TJ McConnell was still cooking as well. So, we added some more toughness. Leon Rose said, yep, no worries, I got you. I'm still evaluating, and our roster isn't set just yet. So yeah, Ricardo says Brook Lopez would be good. I don't watch Brook too much these days, but yeah, I don't think he has that much left. I would go with a younger man in Bagley or Kevon Looney, but we'll see. I think there's a couple of surprises to come, like in terms of guys getting bought out. I do think maybe like possibly a guy like Time Lord Robert Williams might get bought out. I do think Portland still have to cut a couple of bodies too. Dr. Scotty Scott says Clarkson is that microwave type dude. Would like to see him get in situational play. Yeah, like I said, the Deuce injury is tricky. There is a role. Jose Alvarado don't have it going all the time in terms of his stroke. Shot the lights out last night, but there were a lot of clean looks from swinging the ball, by the way. The ball movement was exceptional last night. But if the ball ain't swinging or the defense is tightening up, you need more guys that can create a shot. That's something that Deuce has been able to do. Um, and if he's out, having a six man of the year that can come in and maybe change a playoff game ain't the worst thing. By the way, did y'all see Cam Thomas's performance, man? He had Giannis salivating at coming back. Cam Thomas, what a player to pick up on the buyout. That was insane. And the Milwaukee Bucks could be a giant killer, right? Cam Thomas is a serious second option alongside Giannis if he comes back healthy. So one player that can create a shot and get crazy off the dribble, that can change things a lot. James Harden has changed Cleveland a lot as well. They're just one game back. So we cannot take anything for granted right now. We have to get stronger. We have to get bigger. We have to get tougher defensively. And that's what we have done. All for just Yarborough Sele, man, and a couple of packets of Skittles for a couple of second round picks. Yarborough Sele, and thank you, Malcolm Brogdon, retiring and opening up the 15th spot. We're able to add a couple of big guys to the rotation and come to play with their hard hat, lunch pail, and offer that defense. Some of that 90s grit, I think, has come back. As I said earlier in the stream tonight, guys, I think we have an agitator lineup now with Jose Alvarado, Landry Shamet, Josh Hart, Sochan, and Mitchell Robinson. Those guys will get into it. Those guys will definitely mix it up. Yeah, I think we got stronger for the matchups, specifically Detroit and Boston, right? Styles make fights. In the playoffs, it's game planning, it's scheming, it's, no, off days, no back-to-backs, and it's playing the same team, best out of 7, right? How can you beat that team 4 times before they beat you 4 times? Regular season's a whole nother league. That's out the window now, right? When it gets to the playoffs, you have to have different tools in the shed. You have to have different tools at your disposal that can change a game, right? And I do think, yeah, if you want to make life more difficult for a Cade Cunningham, Jaylen Brown and his shaky handle, you got to put some size and physicality on those boys, because yeah, they can lower their shoulder and try to muscle you to the rack, and they do bully Josh Hart quite often. Landry Shamet's too small to be guarding up on some of those big boys. Pascal Siakam, uh, look, even James Harden, is a big body. He likes to lower the shoulder as well. Got to put some physicality on him. So this will lighten the load off wing stop. OG Anunoby got to stay healthy, right? You don't want to, exhaust him. Mikal Bridges not physical on the perimeter either. So we did put a lot on the body of Deuce McBride, and Deuce McBride's body has started to kind of, wear down. So we bring in some younger legs, right? Jose Alvarado and Jeremy Sochan together with Mo D. Man, we got some younger legs, and we got the size we need. David says, do we still have room for another player? Not currently. So we're at the 15 spots filled now, but we can cut someone still, they might even surprise us and cut Dardier. I doubt it. I would suspect they'd cut Clarkson ahead of Dardier. But if they're adding a big man, they might even cut Huck Porty to add, a veteran big man. So that is still an option. I think it's still unlikely, but I still think that, it could happen. But yeah, they'll have to cut someone, fam, if they do want to add anyone else. Now, Optimus says, thank you to Yabu and Brogdon for your service, fam. Best believe that, because Brogdon got that NBA pension, 10-year experience, I think. Well, he might have cut it 9 years, but he's good. He's earned his bag. And we got a former lottery pick, fam, only in his second season, right? So yeah, what a pickup. Kento, great to see you. Jose Shamet, Diawara, Sochan, Huck. Damn. Yeah, if we can add potentially a big man, we're in a real great situation. But right now, I'm ready to go to war with these guys because Leon Rose has done a heck of a job. It ain't perfect. Obviously, Sochan's not, the most well-rounded player, but he's got some rough edges, which is kind of what we need. Even out west, man. Let's say we get through the East, which we're all hoping, expecting, um, whatever it may be. Out west, man, we might be up against the chippy Timberwolves. It could be, the Spurs looking for revenge. It could be OKC looking to get busy with, Lou Dort, his physicality and chippiness, his dirtiness at times. Lou Dort, man, he plays football out there. So we're just simply matching up, man. Leon Rose has pulled off a chess move, in my opinion, because we can match up on teams in different ways. Like I said, we could go small ball. We got some extra ball handling too. That was something we really needed to address. Putting the positional and the size aside, ball handling is one of the main needs what the Knicks got. They got a point guard that can ball handle, and they got a power forward wing that can ball handle as well. Uh, all while Mohamed Diawara is still developing and showing flashes every single game. Um, Optimus is even if they cut Clarkson, they wouldn't be able to sign anyone until March 17 after doing the math. Okay, I appreciate you. That's fine. You can still add the final piece up until the final day of the regular season, as long as they've been cut before March 1st. If they're a guy that's been out there since March 1st, we could still pick them up on the final day of the season, as long as they've been cut already. But look, locker room and chemistry vibes are up. Look at Josh Hart, Jose, former teammates. Let me pull up this graphic too. I think this is a good telltale. This was after, I believe, the NBA Cup final, or this was actually, I think, after San Antonio beat the Knicks in a narrow performance. Look at Brunson and Keldon Johnson in the background, and then look at Mikal Bridges, right? Could he be a great veteran mentor to a young guy trying to find his way in the league, Jeremy Sochan, right? Players look at the Knicks and they respect our veterans, they respect what we've built, they respect the chemistry we have right now. So yeah, a lot of players looking to come in this situation, right? A key buyout member has chosen the Knicks over 10 teams too. So that is key for a number of reasons. That is a situation where he knows he's got, kind of got a role, and he knows he could really help the team to impact his value for his future contract. That's something that's big time too. When it comes to Sochan, right? One, he's trying to find a home in the league, and you see Hart, who found a home when he came. OG Anunoby's now looked at as kind of an all-star fringe player since coming to the Knicks. Uh, Brunson's become a superstar since coming to the Knicks. So I think, yeah, these guys trying to find a home do look at the Knicks like, okay, that's a great place for me to, to boost my value and find a home, and also get paid, hopefully, as well. James Dolan, Leon Rose, they'll pay you if you do produce too. And we're sitting pretty in the East right now, built to take down these giants, right? You guys let me know. Do you think Jason Tatum is going to come back? Because so he's been sent down to the G League to do some practices with the main Celtics. However, there's been some mixed signals when it comes to when he's going to come back. Is he fully going to come back? Not 100% sure with that situation. So what a time to come back in terms of, Detroit and the Knicks waiting for the Celtics, right? See, the Celtics had top billing since Jason Tatum's been healthy, but right now it's a different story. It's a brand new day, right? You're going to have to go through the New York Knicks and their wing stop double, and the grit of the Detroit Pistons too. So, and look, Cleveland got better as well. We've got, you got the Raptors that have shown a lot of improvement. The East ain't so underrated. The East ain't so underrated anymore, in my opinion, right? Look, we did win the NBA Cup. We took down the West best, the San Antonio Spurs, almost twice. It's going to be interesting to see how we do against OKC. Really, really looking forward to that matchup, because I think we're going to get up. for the OKC matchups. We haven't played them yet. We're 55 games into the season, 15 games over 500, and we have not seen the Oklahoma City Thunder yet. We've seen the Nuggets, we've seen the Spurs. I don't think we've seen the Rockets yet as well. So that's going to be fun to see, some of our new pickups, the grittiness up against some of those teams out west. We had 2 bad losses against Phoenix. Phoenix have made some, upgrades, but so far in the East, we've definitely taken a lot of hits, and we've dished a lot of them out. We've dished out a lot of belt as well, with 2 franchise wins over Brooklyn and Philly as well. And what a pickup last night, Jose Alvarado, just in the nick of time. As you guys see, largest wins in franchise history now. Food, Philadelphia is to the Knicks, and Brooklyn, New Jersey Nets, 54 points, 49 points, right? This is an upgrade over last season, man. We were a great team last season in the regular season. We might have even been a little bit more gritty up until now, but we definitely weren't beating teams out like 54 points, 49 points, right? We ain't playing around with our food on some of those games, right? And we play well on the road. I don't think we've got that intimidation factor as well. That's going for us in the playoffs when it comes to, you know, responding to adversity. In my opinion, 2 of our best wins in the playoffs last season were on the road. Game 3 in Indiana, backs were to the wall. We had to respond. Karl Anthony Towns was the one to answer the call, and also in Detroit. 2 games in Detroit, man, where Brunson crossed up All-Star Thompson to close the series out. Don't get more grittier than that, man. That arena was going crazy, and the Knicks needed to close that series out. They weren't going to go to 7 in that, Detroit series. So we play some of our best ball on the road, and I think that's a key trait. You obviously, to win a championship, you're going to have to win road games. And on the flip side, how do these teams come into Madison Square Garden? How do we protect home court? Well, we get some more enforcement. We get some agitation, right? Some determination, right? Undrafted Jose Alvarado bringing, a chip on his shoulder and bringing some pit bull mentality, right? I love it. I love what I've seen so far in these 3 games. Smiling, but, getting gritty in the face of the opponent, not taking a backward step, shooting the 3 ball, stealing with the best of them, like the glove. And Leon Rose, man, he's had a hell of a, trade deadline sort of buyout situation too. Uh, Dirty Dancer says, hey, we made the finals 2 of those years. 100%. D. Dot, great to see you. Great pickup. Yep. AP says, I forgot about McBride. I forgot about OG at times because Diawara has just been fitting in like a glove too. Prezi the boss, welcome in, says, keep in mind, we can't play all 18 players. For us to play our best, Coach Brown has to settle on at least a 10-man rotation. Yeah, and I don't think he has done that yet. So just as I bring up Sochan's chart, right, with the shooting, just to highlight his deficiencies shooting the rock. But obviously he can defend multiple positions, versatility, and handle the ball and rebound. But with anyone saying that Sochan, doesn't fit or shouldn't get minutes and all of that, and it's a bit awkward, the fit, I would say to this, there's still 27 games left, and I don't think Mike Brown should settle on a rotation yet because he's still, he should be getting closer to, but he should be able to experiment still a little bit more with Diawara showing us more signs. And everything's matchup dependent. Like, we love Landry Shamet, but if we're getting killed on a matchup where he's, lacking size, then we've got another option. You could throw in Diawara or Sochan, and maybe you lower Shamet's minutes a little bit. So you mentioned it with Mike Brown. Definitely, he's a guy with some pressure now because he's got all the tools. This is the deepest roster that Mike Brown's ever had. as we see what a graphic this one is with Sochan. Look, he's smiling. That just shows that he plays with passion. Jeremy Sochan plays with energy, and he's a hell of a personality. So I think our locker room got better as well. Hart and him already got some chemistry online. Sochan obviously is going to enjoy the city. Got little Poland in Brooklyn as well. That's going to be good for him to enjoy the city, but just also bring his talents, right? He played a couple of seasons in the Western Conference, so this guy is going to get down and dirty. He knows all about the physical game. Guarding up Ant-Man here, guarding up Julius Randle, taking on some tough assignments, guarding Kawhi Leonard in this possession. This is a guy who played with Victor Wembanyama, played in a good culture, good locker room as well. And yeah, he's excited for the next chapter in his career. Uh, it is risky for the Celtics, says Kento, on Tatum's return. Yeah, they do have chemistry, but I think for them to win the chip, Tatum has to come back. Otherwise, they just don't stack up. Dirty Dancer says, I like it. We got another guy who gets into fights. Need a little fight in that locker room. Yep. Just that not taking a backward step, you know. He likes physicality, and just the little simple things. We've got guys that do like to play on the fringes, some finesse guys that don't always get into the physicality side. And that'll take a load off guys like Hart, Shamit, Deuce, guys that fight over screens. And we got more athletic, whilst he ain't Sean Kemp above the rim, but he's an athletic guy, can move his feet really well, good athlete, can guard up multiple positions. Look at that. He just stole Julius Randle's lunch in that possession. So he'll get up in you with ball pressure as well. He just guarded Jaren Jackson on that possession. Here he is guarding James Harden, too, making life difficult, too. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how Mike Brown can deploy him and what lineups. And definitely I could feel him playing with 2 or 3 shooters. Karl Anthony Towns playing alongside him and Diawara. He could play alongside Mikal Bridges as well, too. And we have our co-host in the building, fam. Give me a minute to bring him in as he's getting everything ready. Too, we've got EJ in the building, guys, as I promised. And we're going to get his thoughts on the season so far. The Jose Alvarado pickup. I gave a grade for the season, halfway season point, which was a B+. A lot of the chat gave it a B minus too. I didn't really see any A's so far, but that just means there's room for improvement too, as I'm going to bring in EJ right now. We're going to get his thoughts, fam. Great to see you, fam. How you feeling?
Feeling great. Feeling great. How you doing, CT?
Yeah, it's all great here, man. All love. Excited for the final 27 games and then the new season, the playoffs. How are you feeling?
Feeling great, man. It's been a minute. You guys know what the deal is at this point. Hi everyone. Hi chat. Knicks Buzz fam. It's been a minute and I'm so excited to be on today. Texting my boy CT when we got the news and really some really solid mid-season pickups, acquisitions. I'm very excited to see how this plays out and already paying dividends with the Jose Alvarado acquisition. Um, so if I had to rate the season thus far, definitely would say in the B minus, a B plus, the B range. I think B is a solid evaluation. So yeah, so it's just good to be back. A long time no speak. I spoke to you guys the last time at the start of the season, so it's good to be part of the mid-season evaluation at this point.
Definitely, man. You guys already know. EJ knows when the end of the season is. It's
Yeah.
definitely in the home straight, and that's where the stakes get higher. We get to suss out the competition already, and we've had a letdown game or two, but then we've had some incredible blowouts. EJ, like,
Mm.
what did you think about like the 50-point blowout at Brooklyn? That kind of got our season back up and going, and then the 49-point beat down in Philadelphia with some injuries as well. So that just goes to show, like, how you feeling with us in, amongst the East, with Cleveland picking up James Harden and Jason Tatum potentially coming back.
Um, I think when it comes to evaluating a season, and this is something I think we've learned over the years, having done this pod for now, I think this is our fourth season together. You have to kind of understand the season in quarters. So there's the first quarter, second quarter, all the way to the fourth quarter, and our expectations should change relative to what transpired in the last quarter. So at the start of the season, during the off season, a lot of us had high hopes relative to what happened last season, understanding what had happened to Indiana and also with Boston. But that's also done in a vacuum because, yes, we understood what happened to Indiana. Yes, we understood what happened to Boston with regards to injuries. But the other thing is, too, is that this was prior to the schedule coming out. And I think this has been one of the things that Knicks fans have been really disappointed with. But I think we have to understand it in context. Our season schedule is different than, for example, Detroit's. So we had a stretch of games that were really, really very difficult. A couple of games that haven't existed in a long time, 3 and 4 nights. That was like a reality, and I think that in part helped to fuel that midseason skid that we had, and we've bounced back. But there's also a maturation issue as well. A team that now goes from being the hunter to the hunted, that's a different position. When you start off the off season and everyone is expecting you to come out of the East, that requires a mentality shift. Plus, also dealing with trying to understand Mike Brown's new offensive philosophy, Cat trying to make sense of it. I think that's one of the reasons why we've had the kind of season we've had thus far. That being said, everything happens simultaneously, so there also has to be a recalibration in terms of our expectations. What do I think in terms of Cleveland? I don't take Cleveland seriously until we get to the playoffs. James Harden has to still prove himself as a particular playoff maven. I've yet to see Cleveland really, really deliver as a playoff threat, and so it remains to be seen. Don't forget, this time last year, weren't we talking about Cleveland being the beast of the East, and what ended up happening to them? And this has actually been their MO for the last 2 seasons. So I'm not necessarily sold on a 36-year-old James Harden being that much of a difference maker. Uh, Detroit, it's very rare for a team to make that much of a quantum leap and to really be the team that's going to dominate a conference. Yes, this is the regular season, but we've also had a philosophical shift that's occurred from last season to this season. Tom Thibodeau wanted to win every single game during the regular season. We've seen Mike Brown rest players, load manage in ways that we've not seen in I don't think we've ever seen as Knicks fans. So that is a real, real thing that if we're evaluating the team, we have to bear that in mind. Is that last season, the season before that, Thibodeau was playing guys, he was playing Brunson 43 minutes every game. That's not happening now. And so I do think that there are games that the team goes in and they're like, we're really not going to really play that hard. We're going to somewhat make an effort. It's a different philosophy, and so the way in which we evaluate them also has to shift relative to those expectations. So that's where I am with the season so far. I have to remind myself Thibodeau's not the coach. Brown is the coach now. The philosophy's changed. The organizational philosophy seems to have shifted slightly, but nevertheless, the real season begins after the All Star break.
Well said, man. Definitely great to hear your thoughts. I'm
Yeah,
excited for the run home. And two questions for you now, man. Is this the
yes, sir.
deepest Knicks roster that you've seen in your lifetime? And the second thing is, if there's like two or three improvements that we've seen this season on last season, might be like subtle, like maybe an end of game wrinkle or out of bounds execution, out of timeouts. Is there anything you've seen that you could say, okay, swapping in Tibbs with Brown, I like what I've seen in the regular season with these couple of areas.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that I really appreciate that's very different than previous seasons is Jalen Brunson being more of an off-ball guard. And I think that this is really something that's going to be stressed with Jose Alvarado. We saw a little bit of it with Deuce, and unfortunately, Deuce has had an uneven season. And with the injury, we're not going to see him probably until the start of the playoffs. But that was something that was really, a number of us were asking for it last year with regards to Thibodeau and his strategy, his offensive strategy. So that to me is really a really good wrinkle because one of the things that we've seen opposing defenses do in this entire season is when Jalen's walking the ball up, we're seeing more presses, we're seeing more traps, we're seeing more double teams at the halfway point, at the half court line, and that's disrupting the flow of the offense. And so picking up a Jose Alvarado, it alters the ability for teams to just simply just load up on Jalen and say, okay, we already know what your offensive scheme is going to be. We're going to disrupt it at the point of attack. Now you have this other ball handler, a true ball handler that can now break that defensive strategy. So that to me is one of the major wins and one of the things that we have to really pay attention to in the second half of the season. The other thing that I'm really very excited about, and this is the reason why I was like texting CT, I'm like, yo, I'm going to be on today. Jerry Shohan. That is a major, major pickup. And if anything, one of the reasons why I'm excited, here's the number 22. That guy is 22 years old. One of the things that tends to happen with championship contending teams, as they start to make trades, they start to trade for older, more established players. So look at Cleveland, for example. Cleveland traded for a 36-year-old James Harden. James Harden is still a walking bucket. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But when you start trading for aging players, you're also trading for wear and tear. So there's always the possibility that a tire can go. There's always the possibility that a nagging injury all of a sudden becomes well, he's out for 3, 4, 6 games. And in this East, where positions 2 through 6 are only separated by a couple of games, those games can make a big, big difference. And so, what I really, really love about these acquisitions, one was a small trade, one was a waiver wire pickup. What I love about this is that it does not make the team that much appreciably older. And so, to pick up a 22-year-old player and to now really be looking not just at what he can offer now, but to look at potential upside, that to me is exciting.
Agree, man. Agree 100%. Like you said, athleticism, we got younger and, we picked up two guys that are going to add a bit more edge to our team. I think a healthy edge. The
Hmm.
NBA is getting more chippier in the Eastern Conference, beef stew, getting off the bench, getting into it. I think it's definitely going to be a battle in the playoffs. Uh, just to add my thoughts on a couple of things that I'm pleased about in terms of growth from last season is, you know, we look at a guy like Mohamed Diawara,
Oh
Tyler
yeah,
Kolek. They
yeah.
embody what we wouldn't be where we are without some some solid contribution production from those guys, and it's just the willingness to play those guys was one of the reasons why you move on from Tom Thibodeau. Another reason is the philosophy, like you said, in the regular season shifts with health and
Hmm.
the end goal in mind. Leon Rose singly focused on winning the chip. And another example I'm going to use is Mitchell Robinson. So, okay, Mitch hasn't finished seasons healthy for all of his tenure. So, what are we going to do? We're going to put in a strict plan. And yeah, some people might be down with it, some people might be upset, but he's going to sit on back to backs. And what's really the difference, EJ? We're 15 games over 500. We still basically have the same record as last season, but Mitch is playing less minutes. He's
Hmm.
playing only on single back to backs, and he's healthy
Hmm.
now, and he's playing some of his best ball. So that's a big shift from last season, in my opinion, and just yeah, deeper rotations. And he's also emptying the bench like sooner in
Absolutely,
blowouts. Like we don't know if
absolutely.
Tibbs would have had Brunson out there still, 38 points up over
Oh,
Philip.
he would have.
We yeah. What is it?
He definitely would have. He definitely would have. He probably would have kept him in with like 5 minutes left. Like I. But that's the maturation, right? And I think that's one of the things that sometimes we forget about the arc of basketball. Like all of when we started this journey together 4 years ago, we were talking about this particular point. Like we were already forecasting into the future. We were looking at the RJ Barretts, we were looking at the Emmanuel Quickleys, we were looking at the Quentin Grimes, and we were looking at draft picks. And we had that conversation 4 years ago saying, like, hey, there's going to come a point with the Obi Toppins, we're going to have to consolidate players, and we have to do it in a way that coincides with the shift in the Eastern Conference. So you and I had the conversation 4 years ago. It is on YouTube, folks. Go back to the archives where we said you have to time it so that, like for example, Giannis and the Bucks, their championship window closes, and you have to make moves that keep your window as open as possible. And one of the worst things organizations do, time and time again, like the Bucks, is that they trade for players who are maybe a day or two past their prime, and you're hoping to like extend it. So, for example, the Dame Lillard trade, um, Chris Middleton extending him and giving him another contract, and all of a sudden your team then starts to get bit parts. And the other thing that also has to happen with certain teams is that your philosophy has to change as you mature into that championship window. So, whereas Thibodeau was really trying to develop a championship culture, once you hit that the apex of that championship window, some of the philosophical underpinnings of your organization has to change, because now you do need a Mitch. You need to make sure that he's available for 45 games, 50 games, but which 50 games? And I think that's what shifted is we're not going to make him available the first 50 games and then hope and pray he's held together by duct tape and hope and a prayer during the playoffs. Let's actually choose the most important 50 games because we have a history. We have a bank of understanding in terms of knowing this kid's going to get broken down within 50, 60 games. Let's choose it so that he's available during the playoffs. And guess what? During the playoffs, we don't play back to backs. So he'll be available every single game during the playoffs.
Yeah, man, I got to get your thoughts on GTA 5, the other first
Oh,
big pickup, because a historic night. And I just want to throw that into the NBA Cup as well. Give us your
yeah.
thoughts on the ripple effect of winning something and maybe helping the culture out with this locker room. I don't know, people just sort of glossing over it. It's in the past now. NBA Cup,
Hmm.
James Dolan decided not to hang the banner up, but I believe in the minds of these players, they won something together, and I think that's got us off. When it comes to the playoffs, they'll be
Yeah.
ready for these big games.
Yeah. I mean, let's talk NBA Cup first because I didn't pop up for that one, but hang the banner. The Lakers did it, the Bucks did it, you do it. And I think the reason why, and we spoke about this years ago, the way the national NBA audience talks about the Knicks, it it eats at the craw of Knicks fans and clearly the organization itself. We are very, very aware as Knicks fans how the NBA media talks about our team to a fault. The perception of the Knicks nationally is changing. And so if Stephen A. Smith or whomever, they want to mock the Knicks, and obviously Stephen A. is I guess he's a Knicks fan. But if the national media wants to mock the Knicks, guys, it's going to continue to it's clickbait. It's media literacy. Just know the reason why the NBA, the national NBA media loves to poke at the Knicks when there's an opportunity to do it is because they know in a market that has 8.5 million people, enraged Knicks fans will click on that YouTube video. They'll click on that TikTok video. They'll click on that IG video, that reel, and it'll engage. You'll be engaged with it, whether you hate watching it or you love watching it. So I think we need to divorce ourselves from this need for the national NBA media to affirm what we already know. This is a NBA championship contending team. And there is nothing wrong with putting up a banner in Madison Square Garden for the NBA Cup because there's a banner for Billy Joel. There's a banner for almost everything at Madison Square Garden. I've been there recently. And if you look up, it's not just the retired numbers of the New York Knicks, it's not just the retired numbers of the New York Rangers. There are banners to celebrate random things. At some point in 50, 75 years, there'll be more banners, right? There are banners for the Rangers from when it was the Patrick division. It doesn't even exist anymore. It's part of the history of the league. It's part of the history of the organization. Be proud of the accomplishment. And also, it's a way of recognizing people who we don't know. It's a way of recognizing the trainers, the staff. When they come back with their family, their names won't be retired, but they can always point to the banner and say, I was part of this organization and I contributed to that. So stop adhering to the small mindedness and the clickbait, the rage baiting of the national NBA media. Think of it in terms of it just being a historical document. GTA 5, there's something different about when you're playing for your home team. We saw it with Melo, and we still see it with Melo. No matter the fact that Melo was a Denver Nugget first, you can tell in his affect that his Knicks career mattered way more. Why? Because it's home. You know, there's a reason why Cat was kind of walking around the way that he was the first half of the season. It's because he's a tri-state area kid. We saw it with J.R. Smith, a tri-state area kid. You can't get any closer to Madison Square Garden than Brooklyn, except it's for someone who's coming from Harlem or from Manhattan. There's a swagger that GTA 5 has. There's an energy, there's a toughness that was lacking on this team. And this is the kind of attitude you need. This is also why I like the Sochan pickup. There's a certain attitude that elevates the team. They may not be all stars, but they add that je ne sais quoi that's necessary for a team to compete for a championship. So thank you, Leon Rose. Excellent move.
Yeah, it just added the cherry on top in terms of grit, a little bit of extra grit, toughness. We have enough finesse, guys, I think, to
Yeah.
close it out. We need guys that to support them, do the dirty work, the grit, the grunt work, and step
Yep.
in their defense, protect your best player, lay some wood if needed. And, we've been lacking that, people from Draymond talking smack about Cat, you know.
hmm
Um, last year was it, PJ Tucker and Shamit, step to people because, they were pushing people out of bounds and knocking Brunson down, stepping over him. Just that intimidation factor, I think, is key. And everyone's been coming into Madison Square Garden, EJ, and getting up for their best game because they know we're the New York Knicks, but they now see us as a real threat. And I don't think we got any weaker. We got more intimidating in terms of people.
hmm
Even if they hate the Knicks, they've got to be looking at like, man, they got deeper. They got a couple of guys now that are really going to help, and we didn't give up anything. Really, we didn't get up anything. We're developing some young talent still. Like I said, Colex had an amazing second year in terms of growth. He might not be ready for the big time in terms of playoffs, but he's definitely a great depth piece. But we got stronger on top of that. Mikal Bridges, not great at guarding the Siakams with heart and that extra size. Jalen Brown, Cade Cunningham, trying to lower the
Yeah.
shoulders with their
Yeah.
go-to moves. I think it's definitely been key. But now it's all about finding the right lineups and mixing and matching, and Mike Brown getting more out of Cat. Now, you mentioned Cat. I got to get your thoughts. He leads the league in offensive fouls. I've been saying,
Yeah.
EJ, I think he's the difference between a win or a loss in a Detroit series. Because as a $53 million guy, if you want to win a tough series like that, you've got to get the best out of Cat. You've got to get the best version of him. When we found out that the Giannis trade wasn't going to happen at the deadline, what was your immediate thoughts, and what do you see in the future for Cat for the rest of the season?
It's funny because I've been itching. I've been really itching to get back on the program. Um, and part of the reason why is I can understand how frustrating Cat is for Knicks fans. Um, he has
And
otherworldly. Yeah, go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead. Go
just
ahead.
before you continue, I wanted us to draft Cat. Like when he was the number one pick, like coming out, it was
Mhm.
like a dream for the Knicks to land him. I don't know how you felt at the time, but I just thought he was a franchise game changer.
Um, he's um, otherworldly offensive talent, but he's also otherworldly offensive talent when you need a five who can be a defensive presence. And too often he looks lost, he looks confused, he looks like he's just like, okay, my job is to score and to be a presence on the offensive end. And that's why you almost see like a turnstile, a New York City MTA subway turnstile. So I think that's the frustrating component. Um, he really is the difference maker. What he decides to do, what he decides to present on the defensive end is really going to be the determining factor as to how far the Knicks go. Um, the other part of it that I think has been frustrating too is he's his drive to the baskets where he ends up like on the third row and for about 10 seconds in the shot clock, it's a 4-on-5 defensive matchup that can be
Yeah.
frustrating.
I got an idea though to remedy that too,
What's that?
which unconventional, but I say we got J.R. Smith, Stephon Marbury, and John Starks in the first row. Anytime, anytime Cat hits the deck, those guys jump in and push him the hell up the court.
Listen, it might be necessary at this point because again, um, he's there's a difference between an all-star and that guy, right? Like that all-world NBA MVP caliber guy. And I think at this point, Cat is one of those guys who's like top 20, but the expectations and sometimes the way we look at him is like he's top 10. And that's why he can be frustrating. Those guys who are top 20 are frustrating because they have nights where they look like they're top 10, but in reality, they're just top 20. And I think that's why like we sometimes get frustrated with him because he's really you're thinking to yourself like, okay, we should really have two top 10 all world, all NBA players, all stars, MVP caliber guys. But really we have one and the other guy sometimes floats towards the bottom of the top 20. And that's why he's so frustrating.
Yeah, and I got a theory in terms of why Cat had a better season last year because I think it came down to the familiarity with Thibodeau.
Hmm.
EJ. It's a soft landing. Let's say you get
Yeah.
traded, it's a shock because you're a
Hmm.
franchise kind of guy. Anytime you're going to get traded from your team that drafted you, it is a shock to the system and the ego. But then, like you said, you land back home, you land in the tri-state area, but you land with a coach that you used to be with. So
Hmm.
that is a softer landing. With this year, it's kind of like a redo all over again. Like Cat's find a new home and try to find a new way because you got Mike Brown, who is a new coach, and those guys don't have a connection yet. And look, Mike Brown's been trying to, just develop that, but hopefully it gets better, as the season goes along. But also the fit with Brunson, like with Brunson, a guy who holds onto the ball more than a traditional point guard because he is the
Hmm.
the focal, best offensive weapon. So that is a fit that is a little clunky in terms of Brunson needing to spot Cat quicker. If he's open for
Yes.
the catch and shoot, kick it to him quicker. I do think a lot of the responsibility does fall on Jalen Brunson, and
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
he'll understand that. He'll be willing to own that as the point guard. You cannot neglect those duties. You are you are the best team's offensive player, but you're also playing the point guard role. And so you cannot be too predictable, EJ, against defenses that are going to try to game scheme and plan to slow Jalen Brunson down. And I think that's the root of some of our blowout losses with Brunson just being checked at full court, him taking 12 seconds to to get into any kind of offense, and then
Hmm.
Cat's already
Hmm.
got someone draped over him, and it's just really tough to get into a good look. But having some more ball handlers, guys that can grab a rebound and push the break. You got Shamit, got Hart, got Diawara, you got McCall. You've obviously got Jose Alvarado now, Deuce McBride. Hopefully that does remedy the the offense in terms of getting into sets quicker, pushing the break.
It
And
will. It
Indiana,
will.
they're not a great half-court team. We said that for the last 2 seasons. How did they make the NBA Finals? It's by pushing the break.
Yep.
Miles
Yep.
Turner, he's not a post-up kind of guy. How they were getting by with him? The Knicks really should have beaten Indiana the last 2 seasons, but we got stuck into their style of play where, they were just pushing the break. They had the legs. They were just, TJ McConnell, Nemhard, Neesmith, pull-up dribble threats, I think is the kryptonite to a half-court kind of team like the Knicks.
Yeah. I'll even add that I think the Alvarado Shohan pickups are really a gift for Cat because Brunson. I think someone had, I forget, I think it may have been Prezi the boss, who talked about the psychology of basketball. I know that's not how you worded it, Prezi, but there is a psychology to basketball, and not and like one of the things that we like, I love 2K, right? But one of the things that 2K has a hard time replicating is how intelligent is a basketball player. Like how, like not just intelligence, but how adaptable, how intellectually flexible is a basketball player. And so one of the frustrating things with Cat is that you can see like his idea when he gets on the court is my job is to score, and if something goes wrong, there's almost this like this quicksand that emerges where it's like, okay, why didn't I get this call? Why did it, and you become so fixated on it. It's like, okay, do you have the ability to brush that off and just get to the next play and make a smart move that may not be picked up by a stat? We saw a little bit of this with Julius. Actually, we saw a lot of this with Julius, right? Where Julius would just continue to fixate on certain things, and it would not only affect him, but it would affect other players. And the irony is that the other players weren't able to compensate for Julius's limitations. With picking up Shohan, picking up Jose Alvarado, those two pickups actually uh, benefit Cat's limitations, and they also help Brunson in terms of like, well, okay, when we get to the second unit and Cat is your premier offensive threat, second unit, Jose Alvarado is not looking to score primarily. Jose Alvarado's looking to distribute the ball. Jeremy Shohan's looking to defend and to do the dirty work. So now Cat can sit back and say, okay, I have someone who's thinking, their primary thinking is they're going to get me the ball. Same with Tyler Kolek. Primary thinking, get Cat the ball, as opposed to Jalen. Jeremy Shohan, my job is to clean up the mess. And so I think that that's like the genius of those two moves is that it takes some of the weaknesses that Cat presents and it starts to address it and starts to heal it. The psychological part, like the complaining, the every call, the dumb fouls, like that stuff is frustrating. That's a off season thing. That's a maturation thing. That's a looking at tape thing. That's the issue with it. And I agree. It becomes obsessive and it gets annoying because you see how it also affects other players on the court. But you know, hopefully those acquisitions will help to cover up those mistakes.
Definitely, man. And here's another thing to think about. Let's go back to Minnesota. What move did they pull off that we've talked about a lot to help Cat? Just like you said, is recruit Rudy Gobert.
Hmm.
A role player kind of guy, a starting player, but a role player that you gave up 5 picks for. It was
Hmm.
to put Cat at the 4. The Knicks haven't really done that. Leon Rose lost Isaiah, and he thought, okay, I got to get a big man. I got to get Cat. He's got to play a lot of minutes at the 5. But the jury is still out on how many minutes Cat should be at the 5 and how he's going to defend. Obviously we've eliminated a lot of the drop coverage. Pick and roll defense has gotten slightly better with Karl Anthony Towns. But what are your thoughts on with everyone talking about Mitch and the you know minutes restriction and the load management with Mitch? Thibodeau played Cat and Mitch together against Indiana. It was stylistically a tough matchup. But is there a way we see Cat and Mitch double big lineups that they're saving that do you still see that as a possibility that Mike Brown will try that or want to play that in the future?
I think if we're playing a Detroit, you go double big. You have to. I think that one of the things that Mike Brown has shown versus Thibodeau, his offensive philosophy was very clear, and it did not. There was very little flexibility to it. This is the offensive philosophy. You're seeing it game one through game 82 through the playoffs. What we've seen in terms of Mike Brown's rotation is that there's a lot of flexibility to it. There's a lot of variation to it. And to his credit, and to be a little bit to provide a little more context, he's not had his full roster at his disposal for the majority of the season. So there's been a lot of having to tinker and to figure out. Mo Diawara playing as much as he has is really astonishing because which one of us who really predicted that he would play that much? And so going back to your initial question with regards to Cat and Mitch, can I foresee that being a lineup? Absolutely. In part because again, like I'm pretty sure Mike Brown has been unapologetic in terms of picking out Cat and saying like, listen, these are the things that you do that frustrate me. And so clearly by even vocalizing it in the press, obviously he knows that at some point he has at his disposal a true big man who actually wants to be on the glass, who wants to defend, who has no problem playing the big five, um, and that can slide Cat to the four. I do think, though, it does present a big question because if you're pulling Josh Hart, there is something you lose when you pull a Josh Hart. But this is what makes basketball fun. It is really a game of chess.
Yeah, definitely. It's styles make
Mhm.
fights in the playoffs. That's why Rick Carlisle, it's tough because he doubled down on what Indiana's great at. They're not as versatile as the Knicks, but the Knicks just didn't have the depth, I think, and obviously losing game one just changed the whole series. The one game can swing a series where then you're behind the eight ball and you've got to adjust to play a catch-up game. But if you can strike first, you can hit first like a heavyweight fight and daze the opponent. Let's say you get home court, you win game one, game two. Okay, then you only need to win two out of the remaining five, and the
Yeah.
opponents on the back. You know, they have to punch back, and so yeah, it is definitely a lot of mind games. And Tibbs was slow to make an adjustment, but yeah, the Mitch thing, if he's super healthy, I would like to see that double big lineup a little bit more, especially with the size. I mean, we could definitely win any rebounding matchup now with guys of like the size of OG potentially playing the three, Diawara or Sochan playing the three. Um, I believe if we needed to get into an up and down style, we can now with the extra ball handling. And obviously, prayers up and blessings to Deuce McBride and all that. We know the Knicks are
Definitely.
secretive on injuries and all of that, and they've given us the 6 to 8 week timetable. But the sports hernia injury is tricky. It could be different for anyone. He could be back in 5 weeks, or he might be back after 8 and show some rustiness. But yeah, that's what makes the Alvarado pickup just like A+ almost
Yes.
now, because we've seen him play next to Brunson, and he could take the pressure off. Where, like you said, Brunson can be off ball. Um, Brunson can be off ball. Let's say they want to blanket him with Osara Thompson, and it's like, okay, Alvarado is going to bring the ball up now, and he's got a tight
Yep.
handle, so you don't really need to worry about advancing the ball up, quick enough. But one thing that surprised me is Alvarado can shoot. He can
Yes. Oh,
pull up off the dribble.
oh
I mean,
boy.
eight threes, EJ. Like they were open looks, but that just shows how many weapons we've got. If you want to lock in on two or three guys, Shamit or Alvarado, even Mo Diawara now can.
Yes.
That's probably another growth on last season. I think we are a better 3-point shooting team.
Yes. Yes. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, and I know I'm going to mention the name, and everyone's going to groan and be like, "Man, I miss him." Dante DiVincenzo. You know, you see, I mentioned. You see, watch in the chat. If
I
you
miss
miss,
him every day still.
yeah, if you miss
He's
Dante, just
leading the league in off-ball play. as a two-guard off-ball playmaker. He's number one in the league.
Are we surprised? Are we surprised? But that's the kind of player that it expands the game, and this is someone who doesn't need to be in your starting five. But all of a sudden, what really elongates the bench is when you have those kind of players, they step in and they're opening up the court. And this is really, really, really important in terms of Cat, because we know that Jalen's going to get the brunt of the brunt of the first quarter minutes, and we know that Cat's going to get the brunt of the second quarter minutes. Once you get like a Mo Diawara, and let's please give it up for Landry Shamet. Landry Shamet, you know, God bless Brock Aller. God bless Leon Rose. That was a heck of a pickup. And I know we were all thinking to ourselves, like, were we going to have to cut him once he got injured? But he's a dog, man. He has a lot of dog in him. And I think that's what makes this really exciting, getting a Jose Alvarado. Because if you put a Jose Alvarado, a Landry Shamet, and this is your second unit, and you get an OG back, now you're talking about real two-way players here. We're talking about real two-way players. I'm excited for a stretch of time where you have a Jose Alvarado on the court, a Mikal Bridges, and an OG. Now, now we're talking some defense here. Now we're talking playing with some speed, because I love Jalen. Jalen, I have my Jalen jersey. That's my latest purchase. Um, but Jalen is sometimes hesitant to really accelerate the offense. Now we're talking about, okay, defensive pressure and now leading to offensive breaks. That is the next thing that I think we're going to see in the next stretch of 10, 15 games when we get back from the break. So I am so, so excited about what's about to happen.
You said it. And the chemistry in the locker room, I think, has gone up.
Hmm.
Because you see now, I'm going to bring it up. Jordan Clarkson has responded
Yeah.
to Jeremy Sohan's welcome to New York post. Um, so, for those thinking about, okay, how's Clarkson going to feel and all that, like, yeah, these guys understand. Clarkson's 33. He's been around. I think he even responded to a beat reporter saying, yeah, I hear the noise. I see the writing on the wall kind of thing. But for him to understand and, like bigger picture stuff, like these guys can win. These guys
Yeah.
can win here in the Mecca. It's just such a powerful thing. I mean, Clarkson's 33. He's probably not going to get another big contract. And he's been in losing situations before with Utah and the like. Like, why wouldn't you want to sacrifice a little bit and win, win here, light it up in the playoffs a little bit if you get a chance, and then
Yes.
you'll forever be a legend. I mean, Amari Stoudemire and that's still brought in as Knicks alumni, and you know, you see it.
Yeah. But this is what we talked about we talked about this last year in terms of establishing culture. And this is why we cannot take the national NBA media seriously. Whether it's NBA Inside Stuff, whether it's NBA Today, whether it's like the 50 million podcast, you know, what the organization has started to do and do it really well. And this is actually just something that's happened within the last 5, 7 years. It's been creating a culture where becoming a Nick is something that's an honor. For a long time, being a Nick was a joke. When we think back to like the pre-Carmelo days, CT gets mad when I mention these names, so I'll just do it because it's been a while. The Howard Isley, Shandon Anderson, that crop, that generation of Knicks. But what the organization has done in the last 5 years is these alumni nights, they're big. They're huge because what they're basically saying is that being a Nick is part of being a part of a brotherhood. It's part of this. You get to be the king of New York, and don't forget, like Biggie back in the day talking about Frank White. That's a reference to being king of New York. The '90s action monumental underground movie, King of New York. This idea of you can this being king of Minnesota does not compare to being the king of NYC. And so, yes, it's culture. Like, there's a reason why LeBron left Cleveland twice. There's a difference when you do it in New York City. And I think that the organization putting its money where its mouth is, and creating this culture where it's like we're going to show you what we're going to be, a premier organization where we have these events, we have these opportunities. And yes, like Jordan Clarkson, you have an opportunity to forever be able to go to the Garden for free if you play your cards right. You have an opportunity to get a
Yeah,
job at the Garden post career.
definitely. Like you said, you mentioned Cleveland and their culture and that, but we won't talk about him much. But Giannis, the reason why I believe he's got the Knicks, sort of as a destination that he could see himself coming to, is Giannis is all about business.
Hmm.
He's at the later stage of his career. He's only won one championship. He sees himself among the greats. And how does a great get even better? Is to rewrite the story or add more chapters, and he likes the situation of the breaking the Knicks championship drought, but also we're singularly focused on winning chips. We're
Hmm.
paying the players the money. We're making all the moves. We're singularly aligned to try to go all the way, and that attracts like-minded people, like-minded players on that same path. And Milwaukee just
Yep.
haven't been able to get it done. I believe he's eventually going to be traded in the summer, and I
Hmm.
think the Knicks will be right there. Hopefully, we've won the championship this year, and we'll kind of have decisions to make. But we know if we don't win the championship this year, then we will be going in on Giannis. There will
Yeah.
be picks that we can then trade. There'll be some now solid pieces that we could make multi-team trades
Hmm.
with Alvarado and Sochan now. Adding more depth, to the roster now. So I think all of this is in mind with focus on winning the championship, adding more depth. That's why it ain't just always on the court with picking up a Sochan or an Alvarado. It's with also looking to the future and making sure that we don't have too many players that aren't playing. Too much dead wood. I mean, look at the end of last season or even the previous seasons. We would, no shade, but we would have PJ Tucker. We would have, Mamadi Diakite, Daquan Jeffries, Dwayne Washington Jr. We would have, Anton Watson. We'd have just guys that are just happy to be there,
Yeah.
and now
Yeah.
there's no one really not earning their keep. Outside of maybe Dardier, who's on a rookie scale contract. And you
Yeah.
just drafted him, so everyone's here, ready, knows their role. They're down for the ride. You know, that's a great situation to be in. We just got to get healthy.
Well, the other thing too is, and there's a brilliance in what you're saying, and I'm just gonna make the last point of your point, which is when you have a Mo Diawara playing, here's the secret: his value increases. Mo
You
Diawara's
hit.
value, you know what I'm saying? His value during the off season before this season was what? But now, if like at the end of the season, all of a sudden, if there's a need to, and I'm not saying I want to, but if there's a need to trade a particular player like a Mo Diawara, all of a sudden, like that can become like a valuable commodity. It becomes a valuable asset, which was not necessarily true. And like, as much as I love Tibbs, that was one of the things that he often did is that sometimes he depressed assets that could have been used as ancillary pieces as opposed to something that we would have to trade or release. Um, so again, and yeah, shout out to Tango. I was going to actually raise that point. One of the things I know that Giannis knows is Astoria. If you are from NYC, Astoria. That's all I have to say. If you know New York City, Giannis knows Astoria. That's all I have to say. Astoria, LIC, come on. Like Queens
Yeah,
in general.
the
Queens.
melting pot. We got little Poland in Brooklyn as
That,
well.
come on. There is business to be made. So I think that's part of the fascination that Giannis has with New York City is come on, there's business to be made.
Definitely. And I got some stats for everyone joining. We've got EJ with CT. We've got the streets buzzing. Nick's feeling good. We're enjoying All Star week off. Off to a roaring start with, two big pickups. But these stats, man, this is Jeremy Sochan, um, career defensive field goal percentage versus All Star caliber players. Number one against Paolo Banchero, 25%. Scotty
Wow.
Barnes, 25. Randall, 28. Tyrese, 31%. LaMelo, Shea. You guys see for himself, man. This is courtesy of Stat Defender. Does Sohan get enough credit for how good of a
Mm.
defender he is? And was he hiding in plain sight with a deep San Antonio Spurs team? And I put this in the chat, EJ. Peter Patton, one of the reasons Sohan may have been more attracted to the Knicks is they would have had proof of concept where they could go to
Hmm.
him and go, look, we've been able to bring the best out of guys. Kolek is
Yeah.
now a real 3-point threat. Josh
Yeah.
Hart is shooting a career high from three. Mohamed Diawara, not known as a 3-point shooter, is shooting unbelievably now. What's the broken side of your game? Shooting. We could
Mm.
You come here and we're going to get you right. In the words of
Yes.
David Fisdale,
Yeah.
you know, Emmanuel
And
Mudiay will get you right.
yes. Yes. I was about to go back there. Yeah. Quickly. I mean, one of the things we talked about the last couple of seasons is that one of the more underrated aspect of this organization in the past 5 years is we actually see player development. Um, that did not happen 10 years ago. There wasn't player development. There was this fascination with the old big three model, the Miami model, the Heatles model. We're just gonna trade or sign the big players and then everything else will fall into place without any consideration as to what happens to the rest of the roster. In the last 5 years, we've seen this idea of drafting. We've seen this idea of really trying to grow players in terms of their capabilities. And that's been really one of the things that's really impressed me with this organization thus far. And I want to give a shout out to David real quick because I caught your Coming to America reference. Please do not get on the internet and quote Coming to America and not think that your boy EJ is not going to recognize a line from Coming to America. Yeah, she's your queen to be. Yeah, and if you're going to reference any movie around me, watch it. Coming to America, I know every line religiously. All right, so shout out to David. I love it.
Facts. I love it, man. That's why we got the best chat. You guys are
Yeah.
always buzzing. And if we're not buzzing, you're making sure that we're buzzing. Um, and then now I want to shout out the front office. EJ, because talk to me about like Leon Rose, trying to make the best out of what he has, right? This is
Hmm.
a smart front office because you look at, okay, Yabusele had a player option, right? Everyone was talking about we're going to have to attach assets, to sunken cost. What players could we get? Now we're sitting here where we work with Yabusele and credit to him. Big shout out to Yabu for waiving the player option, which I think the fact that he had interest in Europe where he could recover that money helped a lot.
Hmm.
But also we were able to send him to a place where he could shine and play a lot through the rest of the season and maybe re up his value.
Yeah.
But to swap him and Malcolm Brogdon's retirement for two undervalued players that have a lot of NBA experience and have got a solid body of work behind them and fits this team like a glove. To
Yes.
swap just Yarbel Sele out, that those are impactful moves, with not much to play with. And you got to
Hmm.
keep the Washington pick. You got to keep
Hmm.
all your other seconds as well for the summer in the in potential Giannis negotiation. That's game changing, in my opinion. You know.
It's growth. We're long removed from the days of the Cam Reddish deals. Um, One of the things that a smart organization is able to do, I don't like it when we as fans we critique overly critique front offices. There's no front office that's ever hit 100% on deals or 100% on draft picks or 100% on trades. That's just not what that's it doesn't work that way. The best front offices, though, are able to realize when should they cut their losses and then transition out of it. Because again, you keep on investing in bad players or players who are injury prone, and you keep on pouring into it. At some point, it's just the law of sunken costs. It just doesn't make any sense. What what this front office did with Yabusele, it's a smart move. Also, you know, one of the hardest things is understanding the relationship between talent and character. Yabusele did not perform really well with the Knicks, but one of the things we have to give him credit for is being a high character player, because he's not trash talk the Knicks, he's not trash talk the organizations, and I think they did right by him in terms of trading him to Chicago and giving him a place where he could shine, where he could get that burn and re up his value. Um, so it's when you do that kind of business, it's my estimation that the right players see what you're doing and they want to do business with you, or or agents see what you're doing and they might direct their players to your organization. And so it's a smart move on so many levels, um, in terms of getting that understanding and this front office growing. This front office is not where it was 4 seasons ago. And I respect that, to be able to learn from their mistakes and to cut their losses quicker than they did 3, 4 years ago.
Yeah, and I see the talk about the banner and the chip, yeah, NBA Cup and that, but just the culture, showing these younger cats that don't remember the Knicks losing in the early 2000s. Yeah, we're building a new brand. You know what I mean? In
Yeah.
terms of the among the league's younger players, to win an NBA Cup and show how competitive you are and how, much of a contender you are is key. And that's why, we're able to land buyout guys, as
Hmm.
well. Like I said earlier, we beat the Spurs and Sochan in the NBA Cup. We see them dapping up after the game. Sohan knows how special the squad is, and being a part of that and wanting to fit. Don't forget, Yabusele chose us too. Yes, like you
Yes.
said, it didn't work out, but Yabu was able to look at teams and say, "Yeah, I want to go to the Knicks." And we end
Yeah.
up flipping his salary for what we have right now. Um, so yeah, we're all buzzing. As we roll more highlights, we'll get ready to wrap this stream up, with EJ, myself. Great to have you guys with us. There'll be more content over the coming week with this All Star break, but give us your thoughts here. Anything you want to shout out or talk about in the run home of the season, EJ?
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, big shout out to everyone who's been in the chat, who's been cooking with us today. I really missed you guys. You guys know. By the way, shout out Dirty Dancer. I saw your shout out. You guys know that I'm getting my education on. I'm getting my doctorate, so it just takes up so much time. But I'm keeping up with the program. I'm keeping up with you guys as much as possible. But it's been a fun season so far. I think that we have to recalibrate our expectations. We didn't know what Mike Brown would be, what his organizational philosophy would be with the team. I do think that there's some maturation as well that has to happen, with with this team right now. Like, knowing that even though we're going to rest guys, there are certain teams we have to beat. I also think, and this is like a real big one, and I don't know, I want to get your thoughts on this. I think Detroit is due for a slide at some point. Every team in the NBA has a stretch where things just don't click. Like, I don't expect Detroit to win 60 games. Like, that's just not going to happen. So, what are your thoughts on that, CT?
Yeah, I mean, I've been waiting for that fall off for a minute.
Yeah,
I've been
yeah,
waiting for them to fall off. Obviously, I think, you could point to Beef Stew getting suspended. You could get under their
yeah.
skin. They don't like to be pushed back on. They want to be the bad boy Pistons so bad, and they they're not the bad boy Pistons. Now they're a tough team, but they're trying to be something that they're not really. I mean, Cade Cunningham's not a tough guy. You see him walk away from the fight. It's really a
Hmm.
Duran and Beef Stew. And I know they got rid of Schroeder. They lost a little bit with Malik Beasley, but Duncan Robinson, I don't think we do a good enough job exposing him.
Hmm.
So we got to be smart. But I do think, yeah, Osar Thompson's made a leap. But I think Dennis Jenkins, EJ, has really emerged and helped. help them stay afloat. Um, Cade missed some time where Dennis Jenkins made a name for himself. He stepped in, but I do
Yeah,
think Detroit could struggle in round one or round two. It might not.
yeah,
I've
I do.
told the chat this. It might not even come to an Eastern Conference Finals where Detroit might just succumb to some playoff pressure in round two. You know.
I totally agree, and I see David wrote in the chat, and thank you to everyone who's for wishing me well. I really appreciate it, and I'm doing it for my mom, so you guys know that. Um, it's especially in today's NBA. I've been a long time NBA fan. Um, One of the biggest differences between this NBA and the one that I grew up watching as a kid is teams will tank and not care before the All-Star break. I mean, if you've been watching the NBA as long as I have, like just think about the sentence I said. Teams start tanking in today's NBA before the All-Star break. So I think to a certain extent, like how we evaluate certain teams, like a Detroit, yes, they're tough. Yes, they play really rugged basketball and they're going to be a handful. But I also do think that when you're talking about the 8 teams that really make the playoffs, not including the play-in, but when you're talking about like the real playoffs, Detroit is going to have his hands full. And I think, I forget who put it in the chat, it may have been David, but that secondary scorer for a Detroit, I think that's going to be one of the issues that they might face aside from Cade. Now, Cade is a monster. Like Cade is he's like he has next. He's got next. Like definitely he's got next. But there will be questions as to whether or not do they have enough, especially for now being one of the more expected teams to do well in the playoffs. We've seen what happens with Cleveland, and Cleveland was a far more proven team the last couple of years than Detroit. So it'll be interesting to see how they really tough it through the rest of the season.
Yeah, most def. They definitely got a target on our backs, because I tweeted this out, but Bickerstaff, got sent home on Cleveland by the Knicks, and now they sent Pistons home last season with him, and Paul Reed, Tobias Harris was on the Sixers when the Knicks sent them home. So they're all honed in on the Knicks, and they've got a
Yeah.
beef with us. But it's funny how we're not really looking at the Pistons like that too much. We got to get out of our own way. That's kind of the only thing holding the Knicks back, I think, in my opinion. But in regards to beating the Pistons, EJ and chat, I think the best way we could beat them is just stop their 3-point balls, because force them into some tough twos,
Hmm.
because they did lose Malik Beasley. They did lose a lot of pull-up threat. Tim Hardaway Jr., Dennis
Hmm.
Schroeder. Those three guys hurt us quite a bit in the playoffs. Who have they replaced them with? Okay, they got Duncan Robinson, but yeah, you see what I mean? If we can get more rugged
Yeah.
on the perimeter and get up in their shorts, prevent their three ball, where are they going to get their offense from in a grind you out series? You know,
It's
are they? You're
especially
gonna.
on the bench.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, they're going to rely on Duran to score tough twos. If Mitchie can guard him well, they're going to rely on Tobias Harris, who we know can be up and down. You got to prevent Cade Cunningham's drives. If you load up on him, rotate quickly, guard the three balls. I think we pack up Detroit in six. If they can get loose from three, then it's tough. But I think they lost 3-point shooting in a way. But yeah, they've got good depth now. It's just a matter of being good in transition because they want to push the break. They did run us out of the gym at home. But yeah, to basically wrap up on this, EJ, I feel like we overreact to the two losses to Detroit, but we can't forget both of them were in Detroit.
Yes.
It's easier
Yes.
to play well with the home crowd. Get downhill, play with extra energy. Let's see how they do at MSG on next Thursday. That's going to
Especially
be
your
a great
bench.
preview.
Yeah, especially your bench. I mean, your bench statistically just always plays better at home. So, yeah, I'm interesting to see what happens there. Even without Isaiah Stewart, it's going to be fascinating. And again, there's a pressure. I think it was David who mentioned the psychology of basketball. Like we can't get into players' heads and to really articulate what it feels like when you're on the road and there are 3 minutes left, and you're so used to things going well, and one thing then goes wrong. Do you have the intestinal and the mental fortitude to overcome that? We don't know that about Detroit yet. All we know is what we've seen the first 55 plus games. We don't know what it's going to be like the last 15 games plus the playoffs. It's a different animal, a very different animal.
Yeah, I'd love to see them play the Sixers with Embiid or play Toronto and see how
Hmm.
they travel. The Toronto crowd could be crazy,
Yes.
with, especially if back in the playoffs, which I expect, yeah, Toronto, yeah, to be in. Um, yeah, that about wraps things up for this one, fam. An instant reaction from CT and EJ. Knicks buzz. You guys are the best, and our New York Knicks are equipped to take down the best in the East, right? And hopefully are the kings of the East, right? And hang two banners, right? We've got our takes on the NBA Cup banner, but yeah, I feel you guys. The work isn't done yet. That's the biggest reason, EJ. I feel like the Knicks didn't hang that banner. They probably want to
Yeah.
do it later, but they probably don't want to be clowned. Where if they don't win a chip, then you hang your banner up too soon, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, listen. I just can't wait to see what happens the rest of the season. So let's get it cooking.
Yep. Let's get it cooking. You heard it, ladies and gentlemen. EJ. We'll be back either tomorrow or the day after, and we'll do some content on the weekend, and we'll break it down. As our guys will be in the practice facility, Jeremy Sochan, perfect time to get to a new team with 7 days rest. EJ can show him around the city, show him all the best spots.
Definitely.
He might be a Coming to America fan. Take him to some of the key locations on set. And you never know who you're going to meet, man, on Wall Street.
Yeah.
Fifth Ave,
Definitely.
Queens, Brooklyn, you know where it's at. Peace, everyone.